2, 1, go!
The roads of New Zealand are her oyster. She is the pinnacle of freedom behind the wheel, the pearl of tarmac competition. She is Targa New Zealand, and in 2011 the ultimate road race has ventured into uncharted territory. After more than a decade of weaving her way across the hills of the North Island from Auckland to Wellington and everywhere in between, Targa New Zealand heads north to Whangarei for the first time. And the road is not the only new direction. The tyres that have shod the tarmac of Targa since day one have been shanghaied as well. This year sees the introduction of Federal tyres as the new partner in New Zealand's largest motorsport event. The man who stole the race in hearts at Targa Rotorua earlier this year is back in his high-powered WRC-inspired Impreza, but he's under no illusion about just how hard that will be.
Oh yeah, there's some big guns in this, mate. I mean, Rotorua was pretty a walk of the park by comparison. It was a bit of luck winning that too, but no, all these Nissan GTRs and Enki and yeah, some good guns here.
And the big guns are in Nissan GTR 35s. Triple modern winner Tony Quinn leading the charge, with Harry Dodson and Clark Proctor looking for extra horsepower for extra advantage.
Yeah, I think everybody's had a bit of a crack at it, but of late, of course, we've all had reliability issues once we've started playing around with these cars, so it'll be interesting to see whether or not we've actually built any reliability into them again.
Words that will no doubt please Steve Millen, who has so far resisted the urge to join the bigger is better brigade.
I feel very good about this event, I really do. I'm fit, I've been working hard on being fit, the car's fit, so let's hope on Saturday afternoon we're in a good spot.
But he does have a secret weapon.
Yeah, I've got a young lady from Canada this time, Jen Horsey. She's done a lot of navigating, especially in Targa and Targa, Newfoundland, and different events in the States, so something different.
The R35 spoilers come in the form of the two Glens, Smith in the heavily modified WRC spec Evo 10 and Inkster in the older model but highly modified Evo 6.
Our car's just an absolute blast. It's sort of like, I guess for what a 45-year-old BDA Escort is, this is, you know, like I grew up watching Tommy Mackinnon and Evos, and it's a lot of fun. So it's got enough power to go plenty sideways on tarmac, and we always have fun, so it's good.
When it comes to horsepower, Mark White has gone to a lot of trouble to lift himself above the radar this year in his sleepy Toyota Altezza.
Yeah, we've had a few reliability issues in the past, and everyone said get rid of that 4-cylinder turbo thing and put a V8 and hopefully you won't have any problems. So that's what we've done, and yeah, we've put an LS1 in it in the Altezza, and hopefully it'll be reliable and we'll get to the end of the week and finish every stage, you know.
In Middleman Classic, without the high horsepower V8s, the battle could well be a family affair. Mark Kirkbanan this time without his father riding shotgun because he's sidelined with a knee injury.
We went straight to the top and got the best navigator we could find, and so we got Dave O'Carroll, and he used to navigate for Uncle Barry for the first 10 years of Targa, so he knows what he's doing, so we'll be on the case, I think.
But Barry won't be cutting his nephew any slack driving a similar-powered M3 BMW. Expect the fight to come from this quarter and possibly a third BM in the hands of Mike Lee with the turbo Nissan SR20 powertrain. Whether Stuart Rose's V8 Toyota Ute could stay the distance remains to be seen, but in previous outings he's shown he's got the speed to be at the front. There was a surprise in store for the Middleman Classics, little-known Englishman Vince Bristow in a leased Ford Escort. Bristow's love of rallying had brought him down under before for the Silver Fern Marathon Rally. Now he returns in the same car prepared by Bryce Biggs from Christchurch to try his luck on tarmac. Bristow immediately dishes it up to his competition, despite declaring he had little experience on tarmac. Yeah, right. A 2-second lead over Stuart Rhodes in Special Stage 1 with Mike Lee hunting them down in the BMW for third. The Kirkbanans were in touch in 4th and 5th. Mid-stage almost proved the undoing of Peter Jones' All-Tracks Escort. With more development to his Mark 1 since the last Targa, Peter Jones was chasing down the Alpha of David Ogg, who was visiting from Australia. Fellow Aussie Tony Quinn opened the account for Instra.com Modern with two other R35s in Clark Proctor and Harry Dodson close behind. Stuart Schooler is almost the first casualty. Using up one life with 35 more stages to go before the end of the week, the odds were lengthening.
Tightens. Yep.
The early signs for Mark White are positive. The hybrid Yankee Iron and the little Toyota delivers two top 10 finishes. Special Stage 2 follows the inland road from Waimako to Helensville. 10 kilometres of virgin Targa roads. No advantage for anyone here. It's a level playing field. Woodcock, Special Stage 3 in Inkster grabs the narrowest of wins over Quinn, but it's Ross Johnson and the Global Security Porsche who grabs the limelight. Frankly, would have been happy if he'd grabbed the right gear. And he isn't on his own. Mike Lee slips from third to fifth the Middleman Classic after missing the same corner. Alan Lewis supercharged V8 Datsun 240Z lifts to fourth. The new Federal Tyre distributor is keen to show off the new Targa Partners potential. Vince Bristow's chances as a classic winner take a turn for the worse when the pressure plate in the Escort lets go. He and Jeff Ashfield have to limp to the finish. It's more than the pressure plate that lets go for Gordon Legg, unable to control his Beamer. Lee Hopper is third through Stage 4 Kaiwaka, but further down through the modern field, Nelson Marshall has returned to Targa, but not in the familiar yellow Capri. Instead, Marshall is flying in the new Ferrari Red F355 Challenge. With his Targa revived, the transmission guru from Hamilton is enjoying his new Targa steed. Mike Lee, meantime, steps up the pace, finishing just 3 seconds behind Mark KB. Next stage, he's 6 in front of Kirk Bernand and the fastest Middleman Classic in Stage 5. Alan Lewis moves up a place to 4th in the stage, but Eddie Grutten in the Dad's Pies Porsche punches above his weight into 5th place. With lunch imminent, Tony Quinn slackens off the pace in Stage 5 by 5 seconds, and 4 cars beat him to Marsden Cove for the service and food. There is hot competition building up in the Instra.com Modern. Quinn's 5th is still 4 seconds behind Inkster, and his is one of the few R35s not causing concern. Proctor and Dodson are struggling with gearbox issues, while Millen too is quiet about his less modified GTR, although if there's an issue it's not reflected in his times. Departure from lunch includes a demo race around the streets. No times will count, it's just a chance to break in the new Marsden Cove development. For Mark White, it's his drive shaft that breaks as he gets off the line in Stage 6. White and co-driver Tracy Lance retreat to Auckland for repairs to the hybrid Altezza, but they're unable to rejoin. Glenn Smith is second behind Quinn. The reworked Evo 10 is beginning to deliver results. There is now a second Mitsubishi taking it up to the Nissans. Brent Hurley's coach glazing GTR 34 takes to gravel grazing mid-stage. A blown turbo in Stage 2 dropped him from 12th to 23rd.
Right after the end of it. Here's the 90 right. Oh, whoa!
While the damage from the roll is superficial, the Cantabrian slips further to 37th. Vince Bristow bounces back in the Escort through 7, Hakaranui. The repaired clutch holds and he's a staggering 20 seconds quicker than Mark Kirkbernand. Mike Lee doesn't feature in the standings though through the stage, but for good reason.
Yeah, didn't hear the note and looked up and it was upon us. And yeah, just hit the brakes and we were just a passenger at that stage.
With the fastest classics lacking consistency, the Kirk Bonanza are being paid in spades for theirs. The final special stage for the day is downgraded after an earlier crash. Teams then report to Whangarei for service. Rick Giddy reflecting on a day that might have been.
Yeah, on the first stage we halfway through it we lost our rear axle in the hole, so that was a bit of a worry for us. It actually cut in the brake line, so we thought it might make it to the end of the day, but find out in the second to last stage he actually broke away and we had no brakes. The brake's gone flat.
Across town at Mark Cromie Holden, 2 Nissans are being worked on. Harry Dodson's gearbox is being replaced while the wheels on Clark Proctor's all need to be renewed after they fell apart. 3 new brake rotors are also cracked, so fresh parts need to be shipped up from Auckland for the Metalman GTR. Tony Quinn leads Instra.com Modern after the first day of competition. Inkster is still keeping touch with Smith and Hopper set to split the deadlock for 3rd. Steve Millen rounds out the top 5. Kirk Bonanza dominate positions 1 and 2 in the Metalman Classic leaderboard. The supercharged V8 240Z of Alan Lewis is 3rd, with Jeff Harriman and Eddie Gruton rounding out the 5 at the end of the first day of Targa New Zealand 2011. Long before Whangarei waves off her first Targa event, the Targa Tour cars file out through the start arch to test the road ahead. The concept is to provide an alternative to full-on racing. But let's face it, not everyone wants to retrofit a roll cage and race seats into their favourite ride. So not all the cars are set up for racing, but neither are some of the drivers. This is the perfect place to taste Targa. Top speeds are restricted and tightly controlled by the lead car. Experienced Targa competitor Greg Paul in the big Chrysler 300. The fastest man in Classic, Vince Bristow, is revisiting his position with the least escort after being forced out in a case of what might have been.
I love this guy, it's absolutely fantastic. When it's going well, he's my best friend, but we are having some serious conversations. So.
Dion Arnold has similar issues.
Brand new clutch that we fitted before Rotorua has not even managed to do 3 stages before that let go, and yeah, so it's not a good start, but we're back in and hopefully we'll make a better start of it today and we'll finish every stage.
Harry Dodson too is struggling with his GTR 35.
We had like a sort of a bit of an electronic issue which put the car into sort of a limp mode, and then we continued to drive the car, and so we did a damage to a little selector fork inside the transmission, so we had to try to replace the transmission last night.
Tony Quinn is looking for back-to-back wins, but his VIP Pet Foods Nissan has already failed at both Rotorua and Bambina this year.
And it seems to be fine. Yesterday was good. So that's the only trouble I've had, it's a gearbox. But that was partly because we did launch control, which we don't do anymore. Nowhere in the world do we do launch control anymore because it just wrecks the gearbox.
Alan Lewis, 3rd in Classic, has dual duties this week. The new federal tyres are his charge and he's confident of the outcome.
The feedback's been really good so far, and I just think they're going to last longer than Dunlop, and they really hang on, so real good.
The morning stages begin east of the city and head towards Tutukaka, finishing at Tarua on Whangarei Harbour. Dr Nick Cooper opens his account in the Metalman Classic, chasing down first the escort of Graham Marshall and then Ross McDonald in the Fiat 124 Special T. The Flying Doctor no doubt spurred on by the presence of Alan Fretwell in the camera car, all over the back of the 350 Chev-powered Charger. Barry Kirk Bonanza is quickest through both morning stages on the first run, helped no doubt by a new co-driver, more often found driving in the National Gravel Rally Championship. If his presence is having an effect on Barry's speed, then Barry's speed is having an effect on Rob Wiley.
For the first time in my life I felt a bit queasy. I've never ever in all my years done this, so we're just trying to blank it down a bit. I need a steering wheel, then I'll feel better.
No, he doesn't.
Last year's Classic winner Neil Tolich is also sitting in the other seat, alongside Michael Sexton in the later model M3.
I used to think, well, you know, they've got 2 kilometres or 500 metres to sort things out, but it's not quite as simple as that when you're doing 160, 180, so that was good. Good learning curve.
Sexton and Tolich are swapping roles for this Targa, another valuable aspect for many competitors who are able to get a first-hand example of how better to drive. Glenn Smith's Evo 10 comes to Targa with new specs this year, joining the heavyweights in Insta.com Modern for the first time after sampling Targa in 2010.
We had a ball, so we thought we'll get a bit more serious this year and put a decent engine in it, gearbox, and some bigger wheels, and lighten it up a little bit, and yeah, made a big difference. It's a lot of fun to do, and it's over the whole 5 days, and I think it's the fun. You've got to have fun doing the sport you love, so and that's what we find Targa does.
Relaxed he might be, but the new power drives him straight to the top of Modern. In Stage 9, he claims his first ever Targa stage win.
Open.
A fresh set of feet is the best Clark Proctor can do to stay in touch with the top three. His confidence is under fire with the uncertainty of the car's reliability. Spurred on by the support of Hikarangi's school and with growing confidence, the Metal Man will record 4th place through all the morning stages. There are 2 casualties of note this morning. Ross Johnson is the first. Damaged rear suspension will sideline the Global Securities Porsche for the remainder of the day. Rob Darrington is the other, the Perth driver at the mercy of his faltering gearbox.
We've been having trouble with the gearbox. When I brake hard, it dropped into first, so that's why it locked me up. I had no choice, I couldn't do anything. We're getting good at this.
Brake crash, down into depth.
On the repeat runs, Vince Bristow shows his true form. Give the visitor just 1 second run over a stage and he'll show the classic field just how good he was. 12 seconds quicker through Hikarangi and matching the best Mark Kirkbanaan can muster through stage 12, Mount Tiger. Stuart Rose drives his ute back into the picture through the morning stages, finishing inside the 5 on every stage. After niggly mechanical issues on day 1, Rose is another counting what might have been. Bernie Heidstand makes an appearance in the top 10 through stage 11 with his injected 1983 Ford Capri. Further down the field, the Alfa Giulia running the Victorian historic licence plate is the telltale sign of another overseas competitor.
This is my first Targa New Zealand. I've done quite a lot of the Australian events. I've only done a couple, three in this car. And I've promised myself I'd do New Zealand sometime, and getting a bit long in the tooth, I thought there's no time like now. So here we are. Been behind the little Arbath, who, because I was cruising, caught me in the first stage, you see. So then I had to step up my pace to stay behind him.
Monga Karamia is the start of the last 2 special stages for the day, winding south inland from State Highway 1, in all 31 kilometres of flowing Kiwi countryside finishing in Paparoa. Mark Kirkbanaan finishes the day in command of Metalman Classic, while Glenn Smith and Glenn Inkster win the respective stages for Insta.com Modern. Steve Millen also makes an impression here, jagging second quickest time over 13, just 6 seconds behind the leader over the 17 kilometres. afternoon is a relaxed and unusual competition at Spring Hill, a private property boasting its own airstrip and countless other activities to occupy the minds of competitors while they wait for the Auckland peak hour traffic to subside. The brainchild of Tony Lentino and his wife Emily, the recent Targa convert figured their place was as good as any to pass the time away after a tough day behind the wheel.
They can chill out, so after the drags we've got a bit of entertainment and there's a feed on and a bit of golf, skeet shooting, helicopters, all that kind of stuff, so everyone can do all that. 6:30 they're out of here.
For now though, it's drags in a new and novel part of the event, perfect for the Targa Tour drivers who can't usually get all that horsepower to the road. To top the racing off, Lee Hopper lines up against Steve Millen for the ultimate race up and down the airstrip. Only Hopper has a replacement machine, swapping the Subi for a squirrel. The jury is out on the winner, but there was still more action from this most unusual end to a Targa day. By contrast to the previous night, the third day of Targa New Zealand begins in the hustle and bustle of Auckland's biggest city. Appropriately, safety cars that precede the field in Targa NZ are branded in VTNZ colours and livery. It's a good fit for both organisations, and what better place to fit 100 cars than a vehicle testing station. Professional international motoring journo cum co-driver Jen Horsey has sat in rally cars alongside the likes of Travis Pastrano and Ken Block, and has had her heart in her mouth more than once in her life, but Targa is different.
These cars are a lot more powerful than a conventional rally car, and we're flat out on these blind roads over hills and round bends and past lots of sheep.
Time to look at the scenery?
Haven't had much time yet. If I'm looking at the scenery, he's done something wrong.
The morning stages are all regularly used by Targa, so here the advantage falls with those who have travelled over them the most often. Like the other top cars, Millen will be relying on his memory to get any advantage he can. But as often as he's raced in New Zealand, he still spends the greatest part of his life in California. For those travelling the Targa roads at a more leisurely pace, it's not as much of a problem, and that's just where Philip Adamson finds himself. Last year he was sitting in Jen Horsey's seat alongside Millen. This year he's at the other end of the field with Max Story in the classic Holden Monaro. The biggest pressure being brought to bear for them this week will be from the camera car, always on the hunt for a close-up. Vince Bristow leads the classics from the start of the day, but the hybrid ute of Stuart Rose is just 1 second astray after 15 kilometres of racing. Clark Proctor finds form early in modern. He and Quinn are the quickest through a tornado, but the Australian is 2 seconds quicker than the Metal Man on the next stage. Whatahata was made famous by Paul Manuel a few years ago when he took out the letterbox at Bedford Corner. There's a bright, shiny new one in its place these days, but it's still fair game and it's become an international sport. The Germans have a shot at it, the Italians try, even the Japanese. But it's the Americans who take the prize, but fortunately, not the letterbox. No problem here for Stuart Rose, but just up the road things start to fall apart.
Broken camshaft. Occupational hazard really, you can't can't predict these things. It's mechanical. Yeah, it happens.
Now you've got another motor, but it's a lot of work.
We have, but it's a day job to put it in. It's not the same motors. We've got to retune it, and we're that far behind the pace anyway. I think we'll just come back next year and get another serious shot.
Through Kawhia Harbour, 17 and 18 to Waitomo for lunch. Clark Proctor is on the hunt, another third behind Tony Quinn and Glenn Inkster, and then the breakthrough. 1 second faster than Glenn Smith through Tuanga Road, taking his first stage of the event. The inclement weather turns out to be a test bed for the wet weather Federals. Mark Kirkpanan finishes behind Bristow in both stages before lunch, but he's very happy with the tyres.
Hey, I think they were great. You know, I reckon the road was slippery and we found traction, and there's a little bit of oil out there, so someone's in the poo for that. But hey, generally we're doing good and enjoying the day, so we'll just keep going.
Millen is comfortably in fifth. Lee Hopper is behind, but has been unable to take time out of him through the morning stages. But Hopper finds courage and sneaks home 3 seconds in front of the expat Kiwi on the next stage. 19 Waitomo is wet and slippery. It's not raining, but it is damp underfoot. Inkster makes the finish and goes straight into damage control.
Handbrake never worked.
That's all right. We're still going.
The crew is recalled, and within minutes a new radiator appears and the Transnet Evo 6 is back in the chase for the lead. In reality, he only loses 10 seconds in the stage. This only fires him up, winning the next 23-kilometre stage by a massive 21 seconds from Quinn. That consolidates his second position outright.
Open.
Clark Proctor's third place is under threat from Glenn Smith. The hard-charging Evo 10 has closed the gap to within 4 seconds, but through stage 20, Proctor stretches the margin back to 20 seconds. But the Operure stage sees Lee Hopper's good run come to an end.
As you can see, caught the bank. Hopefully we were going to slide, but the bank poured us in and flipped us around a bit.
And it's not just the fast cars having problems in the wet.
I was in the middle of telling the co-pilot to speak up, and then we were in a tree. So we just lost, as you can see, we got on the gravel there and just carried on straight ahead. So I'm not quite sure, we might have come in there a bit quick. Probably a good chance we did.
Andy Booth has been steadily chipping away at the lead Rick Getty had over the Maserati. Stage by stage, the former NZ V8 champ has closed the gap on the leading two-wheel drive car. Now just 20 seconds separates them, and overall 7 is within striking distance. The global security Porsche moves inside the top 10 for the first time since their return to Targa through special stage 21. In classic, Mark Kirkpanan really comes to terms with the federal wets. 19, 20 and 21 are his stages, and he extends the class lead. Other positions remain unchanged. Jeff Harriman's fourth, safe for now. A good buffer back to Peter Jones, who loses a minute in stage 20, struggling with the wet, and he slips back to 8th. The Ferrari's transmission might be purring, but the V8 is valve bouncing, and the tyres are paying the price for Nelson Marshall's punishing right foot. The result, an exciting end of the day for the Ferrari. The Transnet Evo 6 sneaks in 3 seconds ahead of Proctor for the final stage win of the day. But it's Tony Quinn who claims the overall lead in Instra.com Modern. 3 GTRs hogged the fastest 5 at the end of day 3, with the Evos of Smith and Inkster keeping them honest. The KBs lead Metalman Classic, while Alan Lewis has a handy buffer over Jeff Harriman, but Vince Bristow's rampage through the field looks set to claim another scalp or two in the dying throes of Targa New Zealand. Targa's 4th day begins in the middle of Taupō. The weather is less than perfect, but at least it's not raining.
What's the diagnosis? It's broken. Prognosis?
It'll go again. It's a zombie. It always rises from the dead.
It's pretty bleak in the dead centre of the North Island on the desert road, especially in these murky conditions. The start of competition is down south of Waihuru. More casualties before racing starts. Mike Lowe has run out of brakes.
And the boys flagged us into service here and I went to touch the brakes and the pedal went to the floor. Interesting. So the boys are just doing a mass sander, which on an R-path is not a quick job, and hopefully we'll be okay in about another 10 minutes, so fingers crossed.
By the time the cars leave the 5-minute service at Waihuru for a stage by the same name, the weather has closed in even more. Stage 23 is 12 kilometres to Collier's Junction, and the surprise package is Stuart Schooler. OK, so he stuck off the line a touch early, but for a man normally tied to a desk, he's proved to be a dab hand behind the wheel, especially in the wet. In a time of 6 minutes and 15 seconds, he's 7th in modern. Not bad against some of the professional and semi-professional drivers he's up against. The Giddy brothers beat him by 3 seconds, and the usual suspects, led by Tony Quinn, are up front in Instra.com modern. Down the back of the pack is an official who's jumped ship and is trying his hand behind the wheel.
I've been a scrutineer and a CRO, so I work with the competitors, but getting to race with them, much more fun. We blew the engine at the end of the very first stage. We chucked a $300 motor in, and we're here, 4 days later? We snapped an axle yesterday, blew some intercooler hosing off, but we're still here, we're having fun.
For Inkster, it isn't much fun. A spin costs him precious time he can ill afford. Through 24, Mataroa, another spin. This one more costly. He's a cat with 9 lives.
Yeah, I might have just used the ninth though. Yeah, it was a bit dodgy. I just can't get that. Like when you know, I thought that we'd have a chance of grabbing some time back, but I just can't get it stopped. We've got some grip in the corners, but slowing down. Yeah, I don't know.
It's funny because Glenn starts running car ahead of me, and I come around the road and there's all this grass all across the road in the first stage, and I was the first one through the grass. I thought, okay, I know who did that one. Then I come around the next stage, and there's more grass across the road. He's a brave boy.
The bad boys of Metalman Classic are back. Vince Bristow by over 2 seconds from Mike Lee in stage 23, and Lee by a whopping 14 in the next. The old Fiat 125 of Mark McCowan makes a rare appearance in the top 10, less than 30 behind Bristow in 8th place. They say you always drive a borrowed car harder, but when the guy who owns it is sitting alongside you, you think that might change things.
How the f did I go off on a straight piece of road?
That's a question we were all asking.
I have no idea. It was going beautifully and we just came down the hill and just touched the brakes into this gentle right here, and next thing it's on the grass and we're down there.
Tony Lentino's Subaru STI C-Spec in the hands of Andrew Hiskins overshoots. But the powerful brakes on the Nissan make Steve Millen's pull up on the same corner look effortless. The new leader in modern two-wheel drive, Martin Dippy, has also had a lucky escape in the mega Porsche. Racing in the shadow of his faster relations, Carl Kirkbanand slots in 4th, just 2 seconds behind cousin Mark through Taiapi 2. The 37 kilometres of special stage 27 skirts the Ruahine range. Even with the rain, Rangatike is testing. It's narrow and it's winding. All Mike Lee's good work is undone at the bridge over the Mangamoto stream. Precious seconds tick by along with the next car, Rick Martin. Against the odds, Craig Pillett lifts his big, heavy Tirana SS to 5th in stage and 8th outright. Cop Corner beckons down the highway at Martin. The crowds have assembled and it's showtime. Who could forget that amazing performance from Mike Lowe right here, this very corner 2 years ago. No problems for Lowe this year, and the crowd is right behind him. Chris Alexander has done his share of Targa behind the wheel. This time he's riding alongside Jackson Foster and showing him the ropes, or should that be the fence wire.
Slow down, slow down. I told you to slow down, Jackson. Okay, hit reverse.
Foster and Alexander settle for the duration and now have to hope no one else punts the escort van into the creek 5 metres below.
It's a bit nerve-wracking standing there watching all these cars. Gotta get a bit close to your own car.
Andrew Hiskin's WRX is closest to the mark, precision driving finding him the perfect parallel park. Our Canadian visitor Kelly Silverthorne tags on to the end of the stage, but the crowd eagerly awaits more action. And there was more action in 28, but it was back up the road and something only privy to Dylan and Ward.
Oil pressure okay? We're all right. Whoa. Cool.
The angler and van are extracted between stages and it's on again for young and old. The BuildLink 240Z is first in, but Andy Maijening is lucky. Our classic entertainer Mike Lee continues his good showing. Not the quickest time on the stage, but another moment for the cameras. Vince Bristow takes command of the stage, while Mark Kirkbanan banks more time overall for the Middleman Classic lead at the end of day 4 of Targa NZ. Town Square is the launch point for the final day of Targa. Final touches have been put on cars for that final run home. Kim Blatchley is the highest placed modern competitor on Federal tyres.
They're working well in actual fact. In the wet yesterday we thought we'd use the wet tyres, but then we allotted not to. Yeah. So we just stayed on the dry Federals and they seem to work all right in the rain. So I don't think I'd bother with the wets, quite honestly. If you look at the wear rate on my tyres, they're really good. There's plenty left on there. Yeah, so yeah, it's working out well.
While the Nissans are running a standard road tyre simply because of their rim size, competitors are allowed to use up their old tyres. Many are doing so, but the classic field is full of cars running the newly introduced rubber. Blatchley will start from 7th in Instra.com Modern. It's a creditable position for an older model car. In a newer model, the fastest two-wheel drive, Martin Dippy has only one thing on his mind this morning.
Well, we're very excited, although today is our nemesis day. We had a little problem last year on some of the stages, so yeah, I need to keep focused today to ensure that we stay the fastest two-wheel drive.
Clark Proctor is lamenting a tough week on Targa.
These cars are sort of so heavy, they just tend to break stuff on these small, bumpy, narrow roads, and full credit to all of the crews. They've worked tirelessly, and I mean, I know our guys today was 4:30 this morning, and they've done it most nights, so they're absolutely shattered.
Barry here is 16th through Special Stage 31 over the Ruahine Range at Woodville and has no problems, but not so for the otherwise consistent Schooler brothers.
Double caution, fast approach.
Under braking, come to the corner, it's tighter than anticipated, and spun her up sideways down the road and obviously into the ditch. So we're fine, which is the main thing. Car's slightly damaged, so I suspect probably out for the rest of the day, but we'll see what happens.
With the bit in between his teeth, Glenn Inkster has a minute 42 to haul back in if he wants to win the Instra.com Modern class. It's a tall order, even allowing for the fact that Tony Quinn will no doubt ease off the pace towards the end of the day. Inkster begins the day the way he wants, claiming back 8 seconds in the first stage. In Middleman Classic, Mark KB is in a similar mode to Quinn, preserving his more than 2-minute lead over Uncle. The man behind the afternoon at Spring Hill and class sponsor for Modern, Tony Lentino, is finally behind the wheel of his own car today, but Umutaroa Special Stage 32 is a problem, but he's not on his own.
Bit too fast in the corner, locked up and through the fence. But the car here followed and rolled, so that was the more excitement.
So you were first in?
First through the fence. Made a nice mess of it, but she'll hold up.
Yeah, doesn't look too bad.
Bit of a repair will come good.
Lentino's car might have come good, but Vivian Eden's won't.
We just completely misread how tight the corner was coming up to it. Stamped on the picks and locked and slid. So I don't think the brakes were quite, and the tyres weren't quite warm enough yet, and I pushed too hard too early.
It's Steve Millen's turn through Special Stage 33. With Glenn Inkster pulling out the stops today in a bid to chase down Tony Quinn, Millen is having a testing time of it.
We did a little bit of testing then on the sway bars to make sure that the car didn't sway and roll. A pretty big lead over the guy behind us, so we haven't got that much pressure on us, but I just wanted to go quick because that's what this is all about. And you're trying to read these roads you've never seen before and that, and you sometimes you get it wrong, and I got it wrong. I just came in too quick. I thought it was a fast left, and I stood on the gas early, and then the road ran out. So I was off the road.
Inkster wins the stage and is on track. A simple aim, take every stage.
Yeah, our plan is to win more today, so yeah, it's going good so far, and really enjoying it. Plus learning the roads for, let's just say next year we were a little bit closer to the front, and it was seconds, parts of seconds. It'd be nice to learn where those dodgy bits are. So we're probably, we're going at a good pace.
Mark Kirkbanan lifts his game this afternoon after Mike Lee wins the 2 before lunch. The final 3 stages of the event centre around the roads north of Waipawa, ending in Havelock North. Running near the back of the field provides no guarantee of a trouble-free run. Paul Chisholm's VW Golf crying enough through Special Stage 35, Ruakawa. A fuel hose has come off the electronic injection, and he and Steve Millen will spend the next hour trying to rectify the issue. Too much fuel for Graham Sword on the same corner. But the reality is the tricky corner is a kilometre further on. Not even the Federals could hold on to this corner. At this speed, Kim Blatchley ending up in the same position. Nick Cooper gets the zombie moving through stage 36, the big V8 Charger home, ahead of Bristow by 2 seconds. Mark KB, though, is staggering 25 seconds quicker than either of them across the 25 kilometres. Cousin Carl isn't as quick and he gets caught napping mid-stage, as is an unnamed NZ V8 champion. The final stage of the day runs along Whittle Road and finishes on the outskirts of Havelock North. It's a nearly 30k run to the finish, and Glenn Inkster closes the gap to just over a minute. Still enough for Tony Quinn to rightfully claim his 4th modern title.
It's been a bloody hard job, I can tell you. It hasn't been easy, and old Glenn's done a great job, and so has everybody else, to be fair. We've had all sorts of weather and all sorts of roads, and we went up north and down south. It's been really good.
In Middleman Classic, Mark Kirkbanan takes it to the competition in the afternoon and blitzes the field. 40 seconds quicker than the family's sister car and almost 30 in front of the otherwise quick Vince Bristow.
We went just balls out this afternoon and just went nuts. So that was great, and I'd like to see how we do overall against the moderns actually, just because it's nice to sort of stick it to them with a 20-year-old car,
KB's time easily slots him inside the top 10 in modern. Not a bad effort at all. So a couple of KBs on top again in Middleman Classic, but what a great performance from Vince Bristow, coming from the back of the field to grab the last spot on the podium. And a great finish for Jeff Harriman in the Toyota Levin, finishing in front of the supercharged V8Z of Alan Lewis. The VIP Pet Foods Nissan of Quinn and Naomi Tillett winners again in Instra.com Modern. And what great entertainment we saw from the Transnet Evo and Glenn Smith. What an effort, making big ground up in his 2nd year of Targa. While the Nissans of Steve Millen and Harry Dodson make up the top 5. It's been an action-packed week, some new roads, new people, new experiences. It's a journey of a lifetime, whatever way you look at it. There are trophies for some and finishers medals for everyone that crosses the line after nearly 6 hours of hard-out racing. Simply completing the most trying of road races in the world is reward enough. If that sounds like you, then come and join in at targa.co.nz. See you next year.